Blog Talk Radio. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Medlock Post radio show. This is where we educate, entertain, enlighten, and empower. The views and opinions on the Medlock Post radio show are those of the host and guests. They are not necessarily the views and opinions of Blog Talk Radio, Spreaker.com, its corporations, affiliates, or any other podcast streaming services. Thank you for joining the show today, and here is your host, Richard G. Medlock.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. This is your host, Richard G. Medlock, and yes, this is the Medlock Post radio show. And yes, we are here to educate, entertain, enlighten, and empower. And we have been doing that. Now, this is the 51st episode. And we will continue to do this. Now, today's episode is titled, America Will Not Surrender. Now, the reason I have named it that, America Will Not Surrender, is because on this date, September 14th, 1814, the American flag was still there after the bombardment, the attack on Fort McHenry. And yes, that is where Francis Scott Key became inspired to write the Star-Spangled Banner. So that is on this day, 1814. This is the year 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot to cover today. And a lot of what happened yesterday, we're going to discuss. Because yesterday, reality stepped up and slapped the Democratic Socialist, Joe Biden, his administration, and the media so hard in the face, they don't know what to do. A month ago, Joe Biden stood in front of America and said, we have zero inflation. He said inflation was done and there would be no recession. He continued to tell Americans that the policies implemented by his administration were working and we have a stronger economy than ever before. He also said the southern border is closed. Furthermore, he said, more Americans than ever before are working. Ladies and gentlemen, he spoke with a forked tongue. Yes, and if you have never heard that phrase, go look it up, forked tongue, and you'll understand what it means and where it came from. The propaganda media over the last 3 or 4 weeks have been telling us, since gas prices are down, that inflation will be going down and all is right with the world. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that's what they've been trying to tell us. Even after the horrific inflation numbers reported yesterday, the media still tried to get you to think inflation went down. they speak with a forked tongue. The elephant in the room has reared its ugly head and shows us that the administration, the media, and others have their heads in the clouds and will not recognize the truth when it slaps them upside the head. And it did yesterday with a vengeance. And yesterday's inflation report and numbers were a big slap in the head to Americans. But you know what, ladies and gentlemen? We didn't buy any of that garbage that was being spewed by the Biden administration and the media. A lot of us knew better. Why? Because we're the ones that go to the grocery store, and we have to spend money, and we send our incomes go down. The administration, the Democratic Socialists, the media, and many in the GOP and Wall Street believed wishfully that all is right with the world. But that is not so. The numbers tell the story. CPI came out yesterday. Consumer Price Index came in at 8.3%, up from the month before. It's still at a 40-year high. The last 3 months, inflation has been 6.5%. Just in the last 3 months, 6.5%. These are terrible numbers, folks. They're real numbers. Producer Price Index came out this morning, 0.7% year to date. Now that's down year to date. But the core rate, the big rate that they look at, was up to 7.3%, or was up 7.3%. Now, folks, that's without food and energy in there. Now, energy went down, but nowhere near to offset the cost of everything else that went up. And everything else went up in price. Gas has gone down, but it's still up 25%. But that was the only item that went down. Everything else has increased in price. And the American consumer knows it. But watch this. The predictions are for prices to increase again and again. Inflation is part of our everyday life now, thanks to the policies of the Biden administration and the Democratic Socialists and the globalists. There's nobody else to blame here, folks. Nobody. When Biden took office, we had an economy that had under a 2% inflation rate. We had interest rates below 1%. Now, let's take a look at some of these numbers broken down. Food costs in the last 3 months have gone up 12.2%. Food cost. To go out and eat in the last 3 months, restaurant costs were up 13.5%. Now, you say, why do they keep going up? Well, policies that's affecting the farmers and their productions, policies affecting how the farmer gets it to the market has gone up, has forced prices up. Delivery services, trucking companies have now added a fuel fee to their cost. Retailers will tell you when their deliveries are made, they look down on the invoice, and down at the bottom is a fuel fee that used to not be there, folks, but it's there now. And in some restaurants, you see some of those costs being added in at the bottom of your ticket. But they have to pass these costs on, folks. Otherwise, they're going to go broke, which a lot of people are, and a lot of restaurants are shutting down. Small businesses are shutting down because of the policies of the Democratic Socialist. Rent cost, or what they call shelter, in the last 3 months has increased 6.5%. Well, folks, I can tell you, I've got friends that their rents went up anywhere from 20% to 50% this year. 20% to 50%. And some of them, they had to move. And they were lucky to find some place that the rents didn't go up that much. They're still paying more, but not as much if they'd stayed where they were. And they're not negotiating. These apartment complexes are not negotiating. Here's the price, take it or leave it. Here's your rent increase, take it or leave it. Cost in the last 3 months are up 4%. Now, why do I focus on food, shelter, and healthcare costs? These are necessity items. Now, healthcare, we don't choose sometimes when we have to spend money. We get sick or something happens and we have to go in. So that's kind of a necessity, right? Prescription drugs are going up. That's part of that healthcare cost. So these are items. Now, eating out is not a necessity item, but a lot of people are still doing it. But my friends in the restaurant business are telling me their numbers are going down. They're still okay, but numbers are going down. More people, and in times like this, they switch over. They go back to the McDonald's and Chick-fil-A and the pizza or the Taco Bells or Burger Kings because it's cheaper than going out to the full-scale restaurants, full service. Servers are reporting their tips are down. Yeah, because people don't have the money to keep putting out all those tips. I've noticed on tickets now, more and more restaurants are putting 10%, 15%, 20%, and what it is on that ticket. It wasn't there before. They're trying to encourage you to tip. New and used cars are up 10% and 13% respectively this year. New and used cars. Electricity is up 13% and climbing. Home fuel oil this winter is going to skyrocket along with natural gas for heating this winter. Watch out, folks. Now, you want to hear the big kicker here? For Americans, it is the decline in real wages. Oh, but wait a minute. I got a raise. You got a raise, but that decline does not offset the rate of inflation. Real wages have gone down now 17 months in a row. Now, 17 months. Let's go back. Let's see. Biden took office 20 months ago, or 18, 19 months ago. Real wages are down 17 months in a row. That means that Biden's policies are eating up your income. Inflation is eating up your income. Real median household income last year went down for the first time in a long time. Lower than 2020, and 2021 it went down. So, look, is it going to happen again this year? Yes. 2022, real wages are still going down. Now, another cause of inflation here is states that have increased minimum wage. Some states are now at $15. California in January is going to $22 an hour for minimum wage. That will kill the fast food industry. Think about this. How many of you parents take your kids to McDonald's and order a Happy Meal? What are you paying now? $7, $8, $9 for it? At $22 an hour for labor, that's going to be a $30 bill now for a Happy Meal. All this stuff gets passed along, folks. Businesses have to pass these costs along to the consumer, to you and I. The thing that's happening has come from the Democratic Socialists, their policies, their ideologies. We'll get into the why in a little bit. All right, let's talk about interest rates. This morning, the 2-year bond rate is at 3.82% and going up. Yesterday, it started like at 3.4% or 3.3%. It's moving up. The 10-year bond rate a little while ago was at 3.425. Again, you've got this reverse curve here where the 2-year rate is higher than the 10-year rate. That's recession numbers, folks. And everybody was thinking that all of us, oh no, this report's going to be fine, no inflation, recession's going away, and everybody got slapped yesterday, especially Wall Street. Dow was down 4%, S&P was down 3.5%, NASDAQ was down 5%. 7th biggest drop in history on those indexes. Now, it's up a little bit today. Like last time I looked, it was up 76 points, the Dow Jones Industrials. That's nothing, folks. You probably have some computer buying taking place right now. Mortgage rates are now over 6.5%. Home buyer demand has fallen 29% this year. They've already told us the housing sector is in a recession. With rates at 6.5%, from December they were at 2.58%. 2.58%. So they've gone up, what, 3.5 times? 3 times? You've added $500 or more dollars per month to a mortgage payment. It's kicking a whole lot of people out of the opportunity to buy a home. Recession, folks. Yesterday, all the experts were coming out. This recession's going to hurt. It's going to be bad, and there's not going to be a soft landing. Well, half the people, half the CEOs already think we're in a recession. It's just these dreamers, these people with their head in the clouds that can't see it. Now, what's the Feds going to do here? Well, they're meeting next week. They've already had 2 75 basis points increases. Now, the talk yesterday, and it kind of backed off a little bit this morning. Yesterday, they were talking, it's going to be 100 basis points or 1 point. It's got to be tough here. And now this morning they're kind of, it's going to be 75 basis points. That's 3/4 of a point. And that's going to be going on for the next several months. Now, history has shown us that by the Feds raising the interest rate, that rate has to be higher than inflation to start bringing inflation down. Well, right now, you're at a negative Fed funds rate. It's way lower than inflation. Way lower. So how long is it going to get them to get that rate higher than inflation? It's going to take a while. Now, what does that do, these higher rates do, to the federal debt payments? By raising rates 1 point or 100 basis points, it runs up interest payments by the government $300 billion a year, just by 1 point. Well, they've already gone up more than that this year. They've gone up 2.5 points, 2.25. So that's $600 billion. Now they're going to go up another 75 basis points or 100 basis points. That's another $300 billion. And if it keeps going up, so you keep adding all this to the interest payments that the federal government has to pay. They're already $31 trillion in debt, among other things. The Biden administration has added $5 trillion to the debt, are going to by the end of 2024. That's what the projections are. Another, what he's already added, and then what's coming with these stupid bills, $5 trillion. But yesterday, Joe Biden, his administration, propaganda media were out celebrating, and pushing a false narrative about the Inflation Reduction Act. And the inflation situation. It was like, what are you talking about? Well, we're partying. We're celebrating. Americans know that the Inflation Reduction Act will add to inflation. How? Taxes will go up on businesses and investment. Energy companies' taxes are going up under this bill. All these increases flow to the consumer. Small businesses will get hit the hardest, not only with taxes, but through regulations. Corporate earnings have already been hit hard because of regulations and inflation. Third quarter earnings reports will not be pretty, folks. Right now, the report is showing that if you just take out the energy companies out of the report, just take them out, overall earnings are down 1% for third quarter. Retail sales are slowing. Retailers are saying people are buying, but they are very selective in their purchases. And they're not buying the extra things. Food and necessities are taking the priority right now. Luxury items are being put on hold. This is not counting the amount of money that is coming out of savings for people to survive. Now, folks, I know this is not a pretty picture. And this picture has been created by the Biden administration. And they think that they can just go out there and talk their way out of this before the election in less than 2 months. But you and I, the ones out there really battling inflation, know better. They can go talk in the clouds all they want, because that's all it is talk. We're looking at your actions, Mr. President, and your actions tell us you're going to cause more pain and suffering to the American people, and so are the Democratic Socialists, and so are some GOP Socialists. And we are tired of it. And come November, you're going to hear that cry. And you're going to see the pushback. What do we need to happen here? We need strong backed GOP out there talking the way I'm talking. Get out there, get in these Democrats' face, get in the media's face, get in Joe Biden's face, and make them look bad. Talk the talk, GOP. Get weenie Kevin McCarthy and Mitch McConnell out of the way, and Lindsey Graham and Mitt Romney and all those guys, get them out of the way. Get your strong voices out there, get in the face of the media, and tell this story. This is how you're going to win the election. Talk to the people they want to be talked to. They're living the reality. Talk reality to them. Tell them what you're going to do. Now, I heard some of that this morning. David Scheckert from Arizona represents Phoenix and Mesa in that area counties. He was mad this morning. This is a guy we need out there. All the GOP should be out there like him. And said, my people are mad. I'm mad. And he's on the Ways and Means Committee, which means when the Republicans take it over, they don't give money to any of these plans that Biden wants funded. They shut down, they cut off the spigot. They said, no, you're not getting any more money. We're not going to give you any money to put 87,000 armed IRS agents out there going after good Americans for no reason, except you think they're your political enemy. Cut off the money. The GOP is realistic that I've talked about on this program. Yeah, they can pass bills. Biden's not going to sign them. He's going to veto them. That's fine. Have him put his name on them. Come 2024, you hold it up in his face. Look, you vetoed bills to help America and to stop what you were doing to hurt America. They says we can pass them, but it's going to slow things down. The Ways and Means Committee can say, no more. We're not going to give you any more money. Matter of fact, we're going to shut the country down. Well, I'm not the country, but the government. We're going to shut it down. No more money. We're probably better off for it. Shut the government down for a while, get things back in track. And what's coming? There's other inflationary moves that are coming that are part of the Inflation Reduction Act, the Chip Makers Bill Act, and all this stuff. There are the tax increases, which I mentioned earlier, more government spending, which I mentioned, resurgence in oil prices because of taxes and regulations. The Strategic Petroleum Reserve is at its lowest level since 1984. Biden has been releasing 1 million barrels per day which has been inflationary. And he's looking at increasing the daily amount. Why? Why are we doing that? Because we don't need it, number one. It's his plan. Let's get it down. He's been selling some of it to China. He's been selling it to China, to the company that Hunter Biden sits on the board and gets paid like $80-some thousand a month. Isn't that treasonous? All right. But Biden is doing everything he can to shut down fossil fuels. There's no plan. Here's the plan. Oh, we're going to pump money into green energy. But that's it. Where's the strategy, folks? Where's the plan? How do you overcome shutting down fossil fuels? That's not a plan, folks. Chaos. That's stupidity. That's moronic thinking. And this is the people that are running our country right now. This is why we need a convention of states. Just what I'm talking about here today. A convention of states to stop this madness, to bring the federal government under control. And states need to be stepping it up too. Airline ticket prices are increasing because of government regulations. Supply chain problems are to persist. Ladies and gentlemen, I've mentioned this before. We're the only country in the world with supply chain problems. Let that sink in. Go to Mexico. Go to Canada. Their shelves are full. You come to America, we look like a third world country in some grocery stores. Planned supply chain problems. And now, the railroad union is talking about going on a strike. I think there's like 38 hours left before the deadline, coming to a deal. Well, the union leaders and railroad leaders are meeting with the Labor Department today. Well, where's Pete Buttigieg? He's the transportation secretary. Shouldn't he be in these meetings? We're totally absent from all these discussions. Where is he? Is he still on maternity leave? What's going on? Where is he? Because he has no clue, folks, what's going on. Remember, he could care less about all the people getting bumped on airplanes because of gas shortages and prices and all the COVID stuff and all these regulations, people getting bumped from flying. He could have cared less. But the day he went and got bumped off a flight, he started raising Cain. But that's all he's done. He's talked tough, but let's see some action, Pete. They don't want action. They want chaos. They want division. They want fear. They want hatred. They want violence. This is their game plan. This is their mantra. They want you and I suffering. They want you and I crawling on our knees to them to help us. And it's not the government's role to do that. There's more strikes in other unions being talked about. More worker shortages. Increase in the minimum wage in some states. I talked about that earlier. And remember that closed southern border? They keep telling us. Matter of fact, Kamala Harris told us the other day the southern border is secure. Secure for who? Secured for the drug traffickers? Secured for the 3.8 million illegals that have crossed the border that we know of since Biden has taken office. 3.8 million. it is costing you and I $20 billion per year. Now, that's an estimate. It's twice that. Our Border Patrol, we have 20,000 Border Patrol agents, but now we're going to add 87,000 IRS agents armed. Why don't we put 87,000 armed agents down at the border, take part of that $80 billion going to the IRS, and finish the dang wall that Trump started? That's how you secure the border. But the drug cartels are running the border right now. Fentanyl, which kills people, a bunch of people, is coming across the border in mass loads. And sex trafficking is coming across the border in mass amounts. And the Biden administration sticks their head in the clouds and say, oh, the border is secure. That is speaking with a forked tongue. Let's add one more thing to this mix. Loan debt relief. It's estimated right now it's going to cost about $1 trillion. Well, they're saying $500 billion to $1 trillion. Folks, go to the high side with the Democratic Socialist. It's probably going to go to $2 trillion. Right now, all student loan debt is $1.8 trillion and going up. You have all these people going out borrowing money to go to all these universities and come out blithering idiots with a degree in gender studies. Maybe somebody with a degree in gender studies can explain what a semi-gender is. We tried the other day to explain what a semi-fascist is. You need to get a little upset about all of this. The Biden administration and the Democratic Socialists are trying to destroy America. They're trying to destroy your family. They're trying to destroy your business where you work or you own. This is their goal. They want America so weak that the globalist can come in and have them running America. And folks, that's not going to happen. America will not surrender. We're going to hold that flag up no matter what comes at us. We're going to hold it up. We're going to fight. And we're going to uphold the principles and values of the United States Constitution. And I am not the only one that feels this way. There are millions of you out there that feel this way. I've just noticed I've been going on for over an hour. And it doesn't, or 40 minutes. Looked at the wrong clock. This needs to go on every day, this discussion. You need to hear this every day. Matter of fact, I'm going to put these remarks on my blog post, medlockpost.blogspot.com. I'm going to post them on there so that you can see this, you can understand this. No, it's not pretty. But it's not pretty because it's been made not to be pretty. When you want to destroy something, you're going to do what you have to do to destroy it. And that's what's coming out of Washington, D.C. right now. Total destruction of the American economy, an American way of life, and the American Constitution. Not on our watch, folks. America will not surrender to this totalitarianism that's taking place within our borders in our government in Washington, D.C., and in some state houses like California. Yeah. And Oregon and Washington, New York, folks, is scary. It is scary what is happening and how fast it's happening. In less than 2 years, we took a very vibrant economy and turned it into mush. And you and I are paying the price. Get out there, folks. Talk to everybody about this. And if people sit there and say, I don't believe it, tell them to go listen to episode 51 of the Medlock Post on Blog Talk Radio or Spreaker, and they might have a better understanding. Tell them to get their head out of the clouds. Ask them, how's inflation affecting your money? And if they say it's not, they're probably speaking with a forked tongue. But it's a nice way of saying something else. And it's not the F word, folks. It's the L word. Lie. We're being lied to over and over and over. These people wouldn't know how to tell the truth if their life depended on it. So you know what? The pressure needs to be put on them. Whoa. Speaking of pressure, have you seen what Nancy Pelosi has done? Oh, they just brought up, I'm looking on the screen, household income remains flat. Oh, really? And yeah, it's flat. It's flat as can be. It's not growing because of inflation. And your assets are going down. How many of you have looked at your 401ks lately? Folks, I got out of the market completely in January and February. I used to be a stockbroker. I learned to follow my gut when it came to the stock market, not what everybody was saying, not what charts were telling me. I just had an instinct, I still do, about the stock market. I got out. Things were a lot of them were at their all-time high prices. I knew what the Biden administration was doing and going to do and continue to do, and I got out. I went to cash. But if you stayed in, you're hurting right now. And I love these guys on these financial shows. Well, now's a good time to buy. No, it's not. This is far from over. I talked to a banker friend of mine a week and a half ago. He's a commercial lending banker. He does the big deals. He told me then, he says, if rates go up another 1% by the feds, he says, I'm going to see more projects put on hold. He says, already a lot of my clients have put projects on hold. Why? Because when interest rates go up, the cost to pay the loan goes up, and it cuts into their margin, and margins are tight right now. Now, this was right after that Friday when the market went down 1,000 points. Well, yesterday it went down 1,026. And he told me, he said, they keep going up, projects are going to be put on hold, which means construction industry will start to feel it. Jobs will start to be lost in the construction industry. Manufacturers that sell the materials, their production will go down. Think of the ripple effect, folks. Look at the housing industry now. Home builders have cut way back. That means jobs are lost. Materials aren't being bought. This is why you're seeing lumber prices come down. The demand isn't there anymore. And speaking of job losses, or laying off their mortgage loan divisions, some of them have shut them down completely. Shut down the whole division. Some have cut 50%. J.P. Morgan did 50%. Chase has cut back, I think, 50%. These are jobs lost. Ford has laid off 11,000 employees so they can convert a plant over to make electric vehicles. It costs 11,000 jobs to do that. Not create jobs, but lose jobs. So much for green energy. And the answer from the administration yesterday, well, what are some things in your Inflation Reduction Act that's going to reduce inflation? Well, if small businesses will go to greenenergy.org or .gov, they can see where they can spend money to reduce their cost in energy. Excuse me? Oh, if you put in solar panels and put a windmill in your backyard, you're going to reduce your cost. Really. But and we'll give you a tax credit. Inflation Reduction Act, there's a $7,500 tax credit. Understand, that's not cash, folks. It's a tax credit against your income. $7,500 to go out and buy an electric vehicle. So what did Ford do with their electric Bronco? They raised the price $8,500. So now you're down $1,000. You see how this works, folks? This is the game they're playing. Nobody wins in this game. Again, I'm going to go back and say it. There is no plan for them, after putting out these bills and sending all this money out to these green energy companies, to go anywhere from there. This is what happened under Obama. Solyndra went under, and all these other green energies. The only one that survived was Tesla. That's right. Tesla was built on government money from Obama for green energy. And somehow he survived. But the Chinese company that's making electric vehicles has now sold more vehicles than Tesla. What does that tell you? He's losing the market, folks. Now, people that drive them, they say, we love them. They're great vehicles. I'm happy for you. What's going to happen when you need to replace that battery? Did you see the story last month? This couple had bought an electric vehicle, electric Tesla, when they first came out, and now the battery, like 5 years ago, the battery is died. They have to replace it. And folks, these are huge batteries. They're underneath the car. You sit on it. They're huge batteries. They went to the dealer to buy a new battery, and the new battery is going to cost more than they paid for the car originally. You know what they did? They walked out and went and got them a fossil fuel car. Now, you know what makes more sense here? And Toyota's got the right idea when it comes to cars. I'm so far off script here today, it's not funny. Toyota has the right idea. Hybrid vehicles. They've not bought into this electric vehicle garbage for the future. Hybrid vehicles. Remember they came out with the Prius. They still make them, folks, and people still buy them. You see them all over the road. And I rented a car one time, and it was a Prius. Not a smaller car than I would like, but I had to drive it around for a few days. Actually, I was quite pleased with it. You know, it works on battery under 35 miles an hour, and then the gas combustible engine kicks in over that. And I had to drive on the freeway. I had to go somewhere. I was getting 50 miles to the gallon of gas. I drove somewhere. It was 250 miles away, almost 300 miles. I drove around there about 100 miles, and I'm sitting there going, I'm not even down to half a tank yet. Because when I was there, I was driving around mostly around town. And I was ready to come back, and I said, well, I better put some gas in the tank. Now, this was back in 2010, 2011. I put $5 in. The tank was full. I looked at how many gallons I put in there. It was more than $5, it was like $15. It's 50 miles to the gallon. Now that's efficiency, folks. BMW has hybrid vehicles. Hybrid. Where you have battery, fossil fuel. It's a combination. They've worked well. Why are the Democratic Socialists, Obama started it, and the Democratic Socialists pushing electric vehicles? So as to control you. They're in the pocket of these economic wackos, extremists, that think if we don't do away with fossil fuels, we're all going to die. Well, folks, we're all going to die sometime anyway. Now, that leads me into one of my subjects of today. Let me get to it. I got to flip several pages to get to it. And there's a couple other things I want to get to before we get out of here today. Bunches to do. Okay. Let's talk about it. Let me kind of stand up here. Let's see. The Dow Jones is up 101 points. That's not much, folks. It's just hanging in there today. Like I said, I think you've got some computer buying going on today, and then reality will, and you have some day traders that are in there working this market right now. You probably have a lot of short covering taking place going on. That means that you had shorted a stock and it's gone down, so you're buying it back, taking your profits. Okay. Articles came out last week. But let me do a review. Here's these climate change extremists. Let me give you a history. I lived through all this, folks. I remember all of these wacko predictions. All right, here they are. In the 1960s, we will use up all our oil in 10 years. This is 1960s. Folks, do you understand we have more oil in the United States of America than Saudi Arabia and Iran and Iraq and a bunch of other people combined? But in 1960s, we were told we're going to run out of oil in 10 years. In the 1970s, we're going to have another ice age in 10 years. An ice age. That means they were predicting the United States would be under a glacier. Folks, it didn't happen. another false alarm. And I've got somewhere out there, I've got a book in one of my boxes out in the garage that was talking about all that. It was a wacko thing. 1980s. Acid rain will destroy all crops in 10 years. Now, this just wasn't in the United States. This was worldwide. Acid rain will destroy all our food in 10 years. It didn't happen. Nothing happened. 1990s. The ozone layer will be destroyed in 10 years. They kept telling us, oh, there's a hole in the ozone layer. And every time you use an aerosol can of hairspray or whatever, deodorant or whatever, you're killing the ozone layer. And they kept telling us there's this big hole out there in the atmosphere, and all this stuff was escaping from the earth. That was all a total forked tongue story. Didn't happen. In 2000s, moved into the 21st century, got to come up with something new. All the ice caps in North and South will be gone in 10 years. They'll all melt because of temperatures rising so much. So all the ice caps in Antarctica and Antarctica are going to melt. They're going to be gone. It's just going to be water. Didn't happen. In 2010s, the earth will be destroyed in 10 years. Remember Al Gore? Well, he was involved in the 2000s. He was involved in 2010s, and he was involved in the 90s as vice president, supporting all this garbage. So in the last decade, in the 2010s, the earth will be destroyed in 10 years. Remember Rush Limbaugh? He used to have a countdown clock on his website from when Al Gore said the earth will be destroyed in 10 years. And at the time of his death, he kept that clock running. And it was minus a bunch of years when the earth was supposed to be destroyed. Now, I don't know if they think they've learned their lesson. They're not going to say 10 years now. But there were two articles came out last week. One in the Washington Post. It says, rising seas could swallow 650,000 privately owned properties by the year 2050. So they're giving us a little more time here, 2050. New research, I love this, finds an estimated 25,000 properties in Louisiana could slip below tidal boundary lines by 2050. Folks, do you understand in Louisiana along the coast how much of the property is below tidal boundary lines to start with? That the city of New Orleans is under the tidal boundary lines? That's why they have all those seawalls? Do you not understand that? What new research? It's common knowledge, folks. Florida, Texas, and North Carolina also face profound economic risk. Now, how did they miss going from Florida to North Carolina without Georgia and South Carolina being in there? You go up the coastline. Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina. So, is something special about Georgia and South Carolina? I mean, I live in South Carolina. I don't know. See, once you put reason to this stuff, it doesn't make any sense. continuing. There is no longer much doubt about that. About what, folks? As scientists have increasingly documented how the warming of the planet has accelerated sea level rise along coasts around the world. Well, wait a minute, folks. Documented what temperature rising? The temperature since 1905 on the Earth has increased less than 1 degree. Less than 1 degree. Now, let's go to the icebergs and the ice caps. The average temperature there is anywhere from 35 below zero to 70 below zero. Now, if the temperature went up 5 degrees, so now you have minus 30 degrees and minus 65 degrees. How does that affect ice? Someone tell me. That's right. It doesn't. So the average temperature at these ice caps, at these icebergs, the temperatures would have to go up more. Well, if say minus 35, it would have to go up 70 degrees just to get it above freezing, or 75 degrees. If it's minus 70, it's got to go up over 100 degrees for the ice to melt. Reason, folks. Reason. True facts. This is how ice works. Continuing. There's no longer much doubt about that, as scientists have increasingly documented. I just read that. Increasingly documented the warming of the Earth. Well, you know that every summer they say it's the hottest summer ever, and every winter is the coldest winter ever. You ever notice that? I can tell you right now, this summer wasn't the hottest, nowhere near it. Okay. This is what they're saying. 1, sea level rise will shift coastlines and property lines. Will shift coastlines. That means the sea's going to rise, and New Orleans is going to be underwater, and you've got to go to Baton Rouge to go to the coast and go to the beach. Number 2, the Gulf Coast and Atlantic Coast stand to lose most. Well, you just said Florida and North Carolina. You didn't mention North Carolina or South Carolina and Georgia, which are the Atlantic coast. Number 3, it's not just about flooded homes. It's about eroding tax bases. Aha! Now we get to the money part here, folks. Eroding tax bases. All these properties are going to be destroyed, so nobody's paying taxes on them because they're underwater. 4, the potential ripple effects are vast. What ripple effects? We've been hearing for decades that New York City was going to be underwater. They are politically, but the city's not. 5, the future, and this is the kicker. I love this one. When I read, I just laughed out loud. The future is not entirely set in stone. That's these officials, these scientists. The future is not entirely set in stone. Folks, do you realize the weatherman can't tell you what's going to happen 3 days from now? He can guess because of patterns. How many times do you pull up something on your computer, a weather thing, and it's got like 6, 8, 9, 10 days stretched out there? Look at it this morning and then go back this afternoon and see how it's changed. Or again, tomorrow morning, go look at it and see how it's changed. They don't know. So how can they tell us 30 years from now what's going to happen? That's just one article. Here's number 2 article. By 2080, climate change will make U.S. cities shift to climate seen today hundreds of miles to the south. Did you understand that? I had to read it twice. By 2080, climate change will make U.S. cities shift to climates seen today hundreds of miles to the south. Under current high emissions, now they're going to this fossil fuel emissions, folks. Under current high emissions, the average urban dweller is going to have to drive more than 500 miles to the south to find a climate like that expected in their home city by 2020. The study author Matt Fitzpatrick of the University of Maryland Center for Environmental Science. He says not only is climate changing, but climates that don't presently exist in North America will be prevalent in a lot of urban areas. So that means that cold air is going to start coming down. Let's take Atlanta, Georgia. 500 miles south, well, I looked it up. Orlando is 440 miles south of Atlanta, driving. So you'd have to go another 60 miles south of Atlanta, or of Orlando, to get the same weather as you do in Atlanta. Well, number one, they're pretty much the same right now anyway, except during the wintertime. Hot and humid in the south or in the summertime. But New York, let's take New York. So they're going to have to go below Washington, D.C. to get the temperatures that they have now. So is this not almost saying, oh, by 2080 we're going to have another ice age? Isn't it just the same thing? That there's going to be a major shift 500 miles south of where you are now? Well, how does that affect the people on the equator in Central America, in Africa? How does that affect them on the equator? Huh? Well, I don't think it's going to affect them at all. When you put reason to this, ladies and gentlemen, it throws all of this out the window as cuckoo-ness. And a lot of people are sitting here, by the time 2080 comes around, I'm not going to be alive anyway. You see what we're dealing with, ladies and gentlemen? We're dealing with insanity. We're dealing with people that want to scare everybody, create fear, so you'll pay the government more in taxes to get what? Promises? To get nothing. This is part of the New World Order to create fear in everybody, to make you turn over everything to them. We can prevent this from happening. No, you can't. No, you can't. It's not going to happen. They just want our money, folks. Shoo. All right. I had 12 pages printed out today. All righty. I'll talk about that on Friday's show. Friday's show, well, September 17th is Constitution Day, the anniversary of the signing of the Constitution. And we're going to have some guests on the show Friday to talk about that, to honor that day, Constitution Day. And I'll save that one till then because it goes right in to that. So Saturday is Constitution Day. We just had remembrance of the September 11th attacks in 2001. Today is the anniversary of the attacks on Fort McHenry, and the flag was still standing, and the Star Spangled Banner was written by Francis Scott Key and inspired him. A lot of historical things going on this week. not counting the fact that on September 12th or on September 13th, 1959, the Russians landed a spacecraft on the moon. Yes, called Luna 2. We'll talk about that at some other time. Because I want to talk about something that's going on that you need to be aware of. We got enough time left to do this. Oh, and the other thing, let me get this in. Visa and MasterCard have now put a merchant code on everybody's credit card that when you go buy guns or ammunition, it goes into a database and the government will know who bought what. It's creating a database that of gun ownership that the Washington couldn't do by passing legislation because it infringes upon your rights on the Second Amendment. So now they're doing it by proxy through Visa and MasterCard. So fine, we'll go out and pay cash. We're going to take your cash away, and you've got to use this digital currency to buy everything. We know when you buy a stick of gum now. Totalitarianism, folks. All right, something is happening this week, September 15th through the 17th. There's a meeting of the SCO. And you're saying, what is the SCO? Never heard of it. It is the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Shanghai, isn't that something that happens when you get knocked over the head and dragged and worked as a slave on a ship? Well, that's what they used to call it. I've been shanghaied. All right. Shanghai Cooperation Organization is an intergovernmental organization founded in Shanghai in June of 2001. Its 8 members at that time were China, India, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Russia, Pakistan, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan. And now there are 4 observer states: Afghanistan, Belarus, Iran, Mongolia. And then their dialogue partners: Armenia, Azerbaijan, Cambodia, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and Turkey. All right. Did you catch some of those countries? China, India, Pakistan, Russia, Iran, Turkey, Afghanistan. You get those? What's so key about that? Last year, the Biden administration literally handed over the Middle East to China, Russia, Iran, Pakistan, and Afghanistan, and the Taliban. Handed it over to them, along with billions of dollars of military equipment that Russia and China are taking and reverse engineering to have our technology. This is some of the ramifications from us withdrawing from Afghanistan. So last year, we withdrew from Afghanistan, withdrew from the Middle East, and guess what? Iran applied to the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the SCO, to become a full member, along with Russia, China, India, and the others, Pakistan. And they're going to get it at this meeting that's going to be held September 15th through 17th in Uzbekistan. They will get full membership. China, India, Russia, Pakistan, and Iran on the full membership with full authority. Now, what's so key about those countries? I want you to think about it. There's something key about those countries. They all have nuclear weapons. Well, Iran doesn't have nuclear weapons. They're going to. Now, the nuclear deal that Biden wants to put back together seems to have fallen apart. It wasn't going anywhere anyway. Remember, Iran didn't sign the original deal with Obama. They never signed it. Everybody else signed it. Plus, you have this Liz Truss, the new Prime Minister of England. I'm starting to like her, folks. She wants to bring in policies of Margaret Thatcher. She's already said, hey, you want to frack? Go frack in England. We need the energy. She removed all regulations from fracking, except for safety issues and stuff like that. Let's get that kicked back in. And she's against this Iranian deal. So are the French, etc. But anyway, this SCO, and you can look this up, folks, is considered the NATO of Asia and counterpart to NATO of Europe and America. Well, that's scary, isn't it? This has been around for 20 years and you didn't know anything about it, did you? But what else is going to happen at this meeting? Xi Jinping, the leader of Communist China, and Vladimir Putin, the leader of Communist Russia, I guess he's still leader, are going to meet at this conference. For the 39th time, they will meet. So what are we looking at here, folks? We are looking at a new world axis being formed. China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea, along with Pakistan and India, which have nuclear weapons. Afghanistan, the Chinese might have already moved them in there. We don't know that because we don't have anybody over there. We moved all our spies out and everything. Part of this. Wait a minute. Turkey's part of NATO. Huh? It's interesting. But they're also part of the SCO. So you have Egypt and Qatar, as well as Saudi Arabia, have become dialogue partners. Egypt, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia. You see this list growing? You see this big situation taking place over in Asia and Southeast Asia and the Middle East. They're going to start controlling banking, which they're already doing in many ways. They're going to start controlling trade. They're going to start controlling oil. This is a threat, folks, to the free world. This is a threat to the free world. I had to go overseas to get this information. You're not going to find this information on any news media in America. Not even Newsmax. Newsmax should be running this. They should be doing stories about this. Fox isn't going to do it. I'm doing it because it's important. These are things we need to know. Now, they keep talking about this organization. The goal is promote economic cooperation, trade, energy, regional connectivity. Should be used to improve relations with Pakistan and proceed to unblock India's access to Eurasia and impetus to projects. See, they're going to suck India into this full thing and say, India, you got to open up here, or else you're going to be landlocked, and America's not going to come help you out. And India's becoming part of these meetings, even though they're listed as a dialogue, as a main member. They just haven't really participated. So, folks, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, SCO, Keep your eye on this. They're also working with the UN, with UNESCO. They're working with the World Tourism Organization through the UN. They're working with the International Organization of Migration, the IOM. Ongoing cooperation with the UN Office on Drugs and Crime, which the UN, I don't want to go there. The United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific, and the UN Office on Counterterrorism. Well, folks, you go back and look at these corporations, these companies, and countries: China, Kazakhstan, Russia, Kyrgyzstan, Iran, and a few others are terrorist countries. They promote it. They fund it. But, they're working with the UN on the counterterrorism organization. Well, that's comforting, folks. They're working with the Department of Political and Peace-Building Affairs, the DPPA, as well as the UN, the United Nations Center for Preventive Diplomacy of Central Asia. See, folks, this thing nobody's heard about is big, and it's made inroads, and you need to watch it. We're going to put it on our radar, and we're going to watch it. And folks, guess what? We're out of time. We are out of time. Whew. Yeah, I was fired up today. I'm fired up about all of this stuff. I'm fired up about America. I love America. And I'm going to defend her with my every breath. Because she's worth it. She is. So we need to step up our game. We need to be involved. I guess that's our music to get out of here. You need to be involved. You need to get educated. That's what we do here. This is why we're so important. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for the Medlock Post radio show today. May God bless America. Have a great day.